Every day, something dramatic happens in the Caribbean that affects our lives. We'll give you the details. We'll give you the facts on Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick. Host Eddie Frederick.
Welcome to Caribbean Perspective. So glad you can join us. The story that takes the lead in today's edition for Tuesday, 23rd January 2024, and brought to you in association with our friends at Antillean Group is blame to be put squarely at the feet of past administrations for the state of the St. Kitts and Nevis CBI program. Details after this important message.
Believe in our strength, we'll stand by you. Protection from all, perils big and small. Reassurance we give, it's so glad to see. Peace of mind, that's our service guarantee. We look after all our family, yes we do at every opportunity.
Antillean Group, underwriters of all classes of insurance solutions for your protection and investment. Live well financially.
Welcome back. Socio-political commentator Dwyer Astafan has put blame squarely on the leaders of political administrations between 2012 and 2022 for the failure to utilize income from the Citizenship by Investment program effectively and for processes implemented that were not in the best interest of the citizens of St. Kitts and Nevis. Glenn Bart of SKN Newsline tells us more.
Socio-political commentator Dwyer Astafan was commenting on the CBI and associated issues in his commentary release on 17 January 2024. According to Astafan, the country should have been more advanced in all social and economic sectors, and it raises questions in regards to the financial resources generated under the CBI program.
And I say with respect that those who made decisions for this country during the period under discussion made bad decisions, atrocious decisions, decisions that seemed more in tune to promoting private greed and private exploitation rather than the public interest. But it gets worse. In addition to squandering the money and not gathering as much as they should have for you, the people, they watched over the program as developers and others engage in selling citizenships below the minimum set by law in the parliament by the same governments. Our leaders watched, and we saw no signs in them of anger or outrage, no sign of intention to stop the bleeding and the illegalities, to stop the greed of the few and the deprivation of the many. The leaders watched as developers undersold and broke the law. They sat in power and presided over the breaking of the law. Just like you and me, they saw and still see the incomplete projects, all of these white elephants that are stinking up our landscape. The developers gone away with millions and tens and hundreds of millions of dollars. But we here have the pockmarked landscape. That is our share of it. The leaders saw and they still see the loss of jobs and other economic opportunity for you as a result of these abuses and atrocities. They are guilty. And to see some of you the way you idolize them, it sickens and pains the heart of a conscious person. They are the cause of the problems that we face in the CBI today and generally in the economy and society. They are, as a friend of mine would say, big stones, willful impediments to the progress and well-being of you, the people of St. Kitts and Nevis.
Astafan is asserting that citizens should care about what has taken place under the CBI program and what is occurring now, as he called for an independent investigation into the Citizenship by Investment program.
Meanwhile, the leaders of the past and all of the mismanagement and excesses in the CBI get a free pass. I am the guilty one if we lose CBI revenue. All that I've said to you during this commentary and before about the history of this atrocious situation doesn't matter. None of those things are to be blamed. And in the midst of all of that poor leadership and badness, none of them, past and even present, none of them have told the people of this country how many citizenships have been granted, What is so private about this information? And many of you seem not particularly interested in pressing the matter. If you're not interested in finding out what is your business, you know what's going to happen? It's going to be taken away from you. And that has been the case. You have a chance now to recover and set things in order so that the tail stops wagging the dog. And here we are today. After all of that money has passed and all that money has fallen into greedy and corrupt hands, here we are fighting to save the program, fighting to put our economy and infrastructure and society on a resilient, sustainable footing. All of those hundreds of millions, billions of dollars, poof! Here we are still making the claim that there are, as Eli X says, the wrong faces in the wrong places. And you're not going to solve the problem as long as wrong faces are in wrong places. In the CBI and elsewhere, I end by saying that with regard to the past, there needs to be an independent investigation into the CBI.
This new legislation have been introduced to address security interests and to improve the value of the CBI program in the face of external challenges to the program. Glenn Bart reporting for SK Newsline.
You're listening to Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick,
in association with our friends at
Antillean Group, underwriters of all classes of insurance solutions for your protection and investment. Live well financially.
a recommendation for state-owned Parrier Fuel Trading to be charged with corporate manslaughter was made in the report of the Commission of Inquiry into the February 25, 2022 Parrier diving tragedy. The report, which was laid in the Parliament, has been sent to the Director of Public Prosecutions, the DPP, for consideration. More in this TTT News item.
Minister of Energy and Energy Industries Stuart Young laid the report by the Commission of Inquiry, which was chaired by King's Counsel Jerome Lynch in the House of Representatives. He was responding to an urgent question from opposition MP Rodney Charles. Mr. Charles asked the minister to provide an update on the status of the report.
The report went before the Cabinet of Trinidad and Tobago, who took a collective decision to send the report to the Director of Public Prosecutions for him to look at and to advise on future action, if any, that should be taken. Constitutionally and during the course of the conduct of his normal business, if he sees it fit to engage the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service or any other investigative arm, he will do so.
Page 32 of the report states there is not a strong enough case to recommend the prosecution of any one individual. However, the law permits a corporation to be charged with manslaughter. It went on to state that the commissioners are minded to recommend to the DPP that on the evidence they find that there are sufficient grounds to conclude that Parrier's negligence could be characterized as gross negligence and consequently criminal. They recommend that the Director of Public Prosecutions consider charging Parrier Fuel Trading Company with what is commonly known as corporate manslaughter. As it pertains to the duty of care to rescue and by rescuers as seen in the report, the commissioners said Parrier as well as LMCS created the danger which results in the divers being sucked into the pipeline during the clearing of the pipeline. The report stated that Parrier made little or no attempt to rescue in that they failed to manage and coordinate the resources that were available. In the offences under the OSH Act, the report concluded that there is evidence to justify the prosecution of Parrier's operations manager Colin Piper and LMCS Managing Director Kazim Ali Sr. individually as employers for a number of offences under the OSH Act. The report also indicated that the hazard was overlooked by both LMCS and Parrier and added that the latent Delta P hazard existed at the onset of the works within the habitat and became active when the divers were attempting to remove the primary seal or inflatable plug from within the riser. When it comes to the treatment of the families, it is the view of the Commission that the families were treated insensitively and uncivilized. It said the failure to keep them informed, especially in the first 12 to 24 hours, was shocking, as was their failure to look after them. The Commission stated that the families should have been provided with comfortable accommodations as they awaited information. The full 380-page report is available online at coe2022.com. The Commission of Inquiry was established following the tragedy that occurred at the facility of the Paria Fuel Trading Company Limited in Pointe-a-Pierre in February 2022. Divers Rishi Nagasa, Kazim Ali Jr., Faisal Kurban, Yusuf Henry, and Christopher Boudram was sucked into a 30-inch underwater pipeline belonging to Paria Fuel Trading Company Limited. At the time, they were doing maintenance work on the pipeline. The lone survivor is Mr. Boudram. Mahalia Joseph Wharton, TTT News.
State-owned Caribbean Airlines has seen positives in terms of its performance in 2023. Peter Christopher of CNC3 Business Watch tells us more.
For the first time since the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic, Caribbean Airlines has recorded an operating profit. This according to data presented by the airline at a special customer appreciation event on Thursday. Finance Minister Colin Witt read out the figures in his speech during Thursday's event.
According to them, the airline moved from a loss, operating loss that is, excluding debt service, of $36 million US in 2022 to an operating profit of $24 million US in 2023. So take a round of applause for that.
Caribbean Airlines also unveiled new uniforms for staff during Thursday's event.
The government and opposition are earning the ire of business groups that are disappointed over their failure to collaborate and host crime talks in Trinidad and Tobago. One organization suggests they get over themselves and place the country's needs above their own. CNC3's Dorsey Polo has the story.
Palpable frustration comes as 125 days have passed since Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley said he would write to opposition leader Kamla Persad-Bissessar to host crime talks, days after the president urged them to collaborate to treat with the scourge. But despite both leaders expressing their willingness to facilitate joint discussions, they are locked in a stalemate over how these talks should be organized. And with the murder toll standing at 29 compared to 26 last year, they are facing heavy criticism from business groups frustrated over their failure to put aside their differences. One private sector organization is reminding that criminals do not care what political party their victims are affiliated with, and that makes collaboration much more important.
Unless we get together and get over ourselves and, stop thinking about the next election, we will be thinking about, what our great-grandchildren are going to be living in, or we're going to create a situation where we continue having brain drain.
The CEO of the American Chamber of Industry and Commerce shares similar sentiments. Narad Tawari says there's an air of disillusionment with no date set for the meeting.
Of course it's disappointing. We expect our leaders to find ways to work together in the interests of the country. So it is disappointing. But it's a new year, and we hope that they will put whatever issues they have aside and get together and meet.
And Digicel CEO, who opted against making assumptions about discussions between the government and opposition, had one message to TNT's leaders.
As we listen to each other, as we recognize that we're all more similar than we are different, and if we look past whatever affiliation we've got, whatever race we are, whether we've been here 5 years or 50 years, we're going to get to a better place as a society.
Doris Polo, CNC3 News.
Over in Jamaica, the IMF completes its 2024 Article 4 review of Jamaica. Javon Keys of TVJ Business Day reports.
Jamaica is set to have access to about $255 million under the IMF's Resilience and Sustainability Facility RSF. After the second review of the Precautionary and Liquidity Line PLL and the Resilience and Sustainability Facility RSF, for which the country was approved last year, a staff level agreement was reached with the Jamaican authorities. The International Monetary Fund IMF completed its Article 4 review for 2024 on Thursday. The agreement is subject to approval by the IMF's Executive Board, which is expected to consider the reviews in February 2024. The completion of the review will make the funds available. Now, a team led by representative from the IMF in Kingston and carried out the virtual mission with the Jamaican authorities from from January 8 to 18. Now, in commending Jamaica on its achievements, he says, over the last years, the country has successfully reduced public debt, anchored inflation, and strengthened its external position. The IMF says Jamaica has made good progress in implementing its policy agenda under the precautionary and liquidity line and the resilience and sustainability facilities. Now, both facilities were approved by the Executive Board in March 2023 with a combined access of about $1.732 billion.
I am Eddie Frederick. This has been Caribbean Perspective, a whole new approach to highlighting developments in the Caribbean.
In the meantime, please follow us on Facebook and subscribe to our YouTube channel for daily regional news and more, in association with our friends at Antillian Group.
Believe in our strength, we'll stand by you. Protection from all perils, big and small. Reassurance we give, it's so clear to see. Peace of mind, that's a service guarantee. We look after all our family. Yes, we do at every opportunity.
Antillian Group, underwriters of all classes of insurance solutions for your protection and investment. Live well financially.